What the hell is up, YouTube? This is 13 Dragon Blade. Today is going to be a different video other than a Yu-Gi-Oh review. Yes, I know. I've been doing too many Yu-Gi-Oh reviews and I need to get back into the gaming world. Well, I've decided that I'm going to be getting back into the gaming world. So, today I'm going to be talking about my 5 favorite bosses all time, some of my main favorites ever in series, just main boss fights in general. So these are going to be my top 5, and I'm going to be going them by the cover because unfortunately you can find the footage everywhere on the internet if you want to look up these bosses. I'll gladly tell you the names of each, and I'll tell you the title that they are from. So without further ado, here is my top 5 favorite and most, I think, epic battles for boss fights. The first thing we're going to discuss is actually the one from the Force Unleashed. This is coming from the first Force Unleashed, not the second one. The second one was kind of a little bad in the ending, but anyway, not to tease any Star Wars fans out there, a big Star Wars fan like myself, you can ask me anything of the series and I'll probably reply back to it with a good amount of knowledge. The Force Unleashed was released rather early, if I remember correctly, in 2009. It's a good game. It received a decent response from everybody. People were giving it 9 out of 10s, 8 out of 10s. It was a decent game made by LucasArts, so I give it to them because the game was good. Not so much for the Wii, but I have it for the Wii, so I played it. It was pretty good. I mean, saber combos, using lightning, all that stuff. Now, what I want to get into is the bosses here. So, there's a optional 2 bosses before the game ends. You are presented with a choice, which this game has many of. You either could kill Vader, or you could fight the Emperor, of which I always usually fight the Emperor. I decided to kill Vader before as well, but my point is that after seeing both endings, I like the Emperor's ending better, considering how epic it was. And if you look up the PS3 and Xbox version, you're in for a lot of visuals. Each version was different and unique in each and every way. So the Wii version featured something different, the same with the PS3 version, PS2 version, and the Xbox 360. So, what's so special about this battle? Well, the battle with the Emperor was actually kind of epic. You have to kind of be at bay with his lightning and his saber strikes. You can push him away with your saber stab into the ground, push him back with the force up against the wall, weaken him enough so you can do your ultimate finisher to him, which to me was one of the most greatest visuals, at least when it came to finishing off an opponent. I hate the Emperor. He's probably my most disliked Sith of the series, so considering my hatred and how much frustration it was to get to him, he is labeled 5 on my list. Now, as you saw in my video where I did the Kirby 20th anniversary, that I am quite a big fan of Kirby. I always have been since I was a kid. I played a lot of his titles from Kirby's Dream Land 2, which was my first ever Kirby game, might I add. Kirby's Dream Land 2, Kirby's Tilt and Tumble. The other Kirby game that I liked and I played as well was Kirby's Pinball Land. So, from this, I chose one from not the Kirby's Dream Collection, but one of the main ones from the games. And the game that I've chosen from it is, if you can see it, Kirby 64 and the Crystal Shards. I'm pointing to it right there, but basically, that boss was Miracle Matter. He is always going to be my favorite boss for any Kirby game. To me, I think he's good. He has my most favorite boss music ever. And believe me, when I say favorite boss music, I mean it. I have it as my frickin' ringtone. I love it. Miracle Matter from Kirby 64 is my number 4. What's so good about this boss? He's unpredictable. He'll keep changing from Kirby's copy abilities, copying each of them. From I remember Cutter, Spike, Lightning, Bomb, that's 4, Fire, Ice. Can't seem to remember the last one. Oh well. Oh, did I mention Spark? Yeah, I did mention Spark. Anyway, My point is that it still stands firm. He copies each ability, and you have to hit him 3 times with each of the selected abilities because he leaves particles behind. Depending on which ability, let's say if you chose Needle, he leaves little needle cones that you can shoot at him with. Very unique boss, and he has one of my favorite boss battle musics of all time, so I had to rank him at least a good, fair amount of 4 on this list. And now we are coming to the 3s, at least 3 in my book. I don't have the cover for my KH disc, thanks to a certain friend of mine, but I'm going to just put the first one for show because the game is epic in itself. From Kingdom Hearts 2, my favorite boss, and technically he doesn't really count, he's an optional boss, but I'm talking because it was in the game and he was a difficult boss to beat, was Sephiroth. Sephiroth in the Kingdom Hearts series is Cloud's Heartless, or that's what it's depicted as. Sephiroth has a variety of range of attacks, ranging from his Final Fantasy VII appearance with Heartless Angel, he shoots the meteors, he does all sorts of things. He uses a few new attacks with Darkness, and in my opinion, those are some of the best attacks in the game, so if you want to play it, then go for it. In Kingdom Hearts 1, he was fairly difficult, but I maxed out my sword at 255. Don't believe me? I'll show you a video. But to put it fair and simple, Sephiroth has a wide range of attacks. If you weaken him enough, he'll go into a stage of fury, of which he becomes incredibly fast, teleports a lot more, and is a lot harder to block most of his mechanics. Sephiroth being one of the hardest bosses of all time. He earns the number 3rd spot on my list. Now, I know what you're thinking. Before any of you Narutards start out with me, I have to give it to them for this game's boss fights. The game's boss fights were absolutely epic. From the time that you faced Kurama at the beginning, when you faced the rematch of him where his mother literally binds him down. The series itself, I think, is good. A lot of people might dislike me for it, but you know what? There's a dislike button for a reason. I personally have to say that this is number 2 because of the boss fight sequence. Namco did a good job of at least making the cinematics and every boss fight very much worthwhile. From the point that you're fighting all 6 of the Jinchurikis, to the point of where you actually fight Toby one-on-one, Naruto, no Toad Sage, anything. However, my favorite boss fight doesn't tend to be the end of the game. This boss fight that I like in particularly is when you face Kurama the 2nd time, when you're inside of Naruto, and he is facing on Kurama where you can call his mother for help to bind down the beast while you beat his face in. Kurama has a wide range of attacks from hitting you with his tail, claws, and even throwing Razengans from his mouth. So, I can give him the 2nd spot. He was originally going to be my 4th spot, but I still think that fight was pretty epic in itself in the manga, of course, but I liked it better presented in this game. So, second one is Kurama, the 2nd fight from Naruto Shippuden Ultimate Ninja Storm 3. And finally, number 1. Probably the moment that you may or may not have been waiting for. I don't really care, but it is a top 5, so get ready. Being one of my most favorite games of all time, Marvel vs. Capcom 2, my favorite crossover fighting game genre ever. Marvel and Capcom make a good mixture against each other. I've played the game all the way through, tried to unlock most of the collectibles, and the reason I mention this is because there is a boss here. His name is Abyss. He's probably my favorite boss to date. Abyss has 3 forms. The first form that you fight him in is a greenhorn armored sort of suit that I thought first was metal. Looks like it. At least when you hit it, you can tell that you're hitting metal. Kind of like when you're hitting Iron Man or War Machine. That's just his first stage. His second stage, he becomes a gooey, green-like alien form. He shoots lasers and he shoots fireballs. Oh, the first form, the only problem with him, and all the other forms I should say, is that they can't flinch. They can flinch when you use a super on them, but they'll just stay in one place and take the hits. Now, his first form has good amount of attacks on him. He has the electric balls, no pun intended, the ramming forward. He also uses his green horn from either the left or right. He'll toss it at you as a form of a spear. And then finally, he'll have the normal punch forward. His specials in that form include, when he stands straight up, he'll shoot a bunch of green lances at you, or he'll charge up the beam, and he'll release it as a giant beam that will pretty much take up all of the screen and take away a good amount of your health, even if you're blocking. Going back to the second form. Second form shoots with fire. It shoots with a little laser or a big laser. And then finally, it can teleport and also use green poisonous balls that will capture your character in order for him to continue with his special and such. His special actually has to do with his body spinning around shooting green lasers at you. A little unoriginal, I beg to differ. And finally, his third form, which to me was actually quite menacing when I was a teenager. But the only thing I can say is that he basically becomes a big red lava monster. Or at least that's what it looks like. He has 3 heads, and he can use a lot of powerful attacks. In this form, he's a lot more faster, can sink himself into the ground to avoid attacks. The only real way to get him is by hitting the blue or the black core. There's a black core that is hovering above his head, and you have to constantly punch it and or use your supers. If you're a smart person, you'll use Cable throughout this fight, because obviously spamming the pistol and keeping your people alive is what matters, so you can at least build up to the next amount, because then you can go for a triple special and absolutely massacre him. If you go with a triple special with Iron Man, Cable, and War Machine, more than likely you're going to be alright throughout the fight, at least in my opinion. I found him easy when you use that particular team. To break it down for you, this has been my favorite boss for a while, mostly because of how unique he looked. He was something I wasn't expecting. They made him original. Now, don't get me wrong, Onslaught's Marvel vs. Capcom 1 boss was pretty good, but when I saw the boss for this one, it had nothing on Galactus. Galactus has nothing on this guy. He's a big suit of armor that can transform into 3 forms. Sure, Galactus was annoying as hell, but that doesn't mean that he would take the spot of my top bosses. Anyway, there you have it. This is 13 Dragon Blade, signing off.